would you, I mean, this is kind of a general question, but because you haven't been in this role before, describe your offensive philosophy and what you want to kind of bring to the table here.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just want to play. We want to play fast, right? We want to be physical. We want to be aggressive. We want to be explosive. We want to be detailed. We want that to show up on tape each and every week. When somebody looks at our tape, we want those things to show up, and that's what we're going to shoot for.
Why was Justin Fields the right guy to lead what you wanted to?
Yeah, he is just a talented individual on all facets. He's obviously a physically talented player, right? Everybody talks about the running. Well, the guy's got an arm too, and he does a great job with that. And mentally, he's phenomenal. He's been absolutely phenomenal so far, and we expect more out of that. And there's just a lot of things that you can do with that type of player that is going to put stress on a defense and make that defensive coordinator stay up late at night, as we get going into this thing.
Statistically, he showed signs of improvement. I'm talking Fields over the last 6 games last year, and even going toward the end of that last year in Chicago. What did you see specifically over those last 6 to 12 games that said there's something to build with there?
Yeah, it's just growth. Going through his career, just continuing to stack experience along with it, and then ultimately ends up winning 4 games out of the 6. And you just see some of the things that are starting to develop in his game, and then you look at that and you go, that's pretty good. We can do some things with that, and that's kind of, I think, where it started. And then of course all the other things that everybody talks about, that's real. Those things are real, and we're excited to get going with him.
How ready do you feel for this role to move into the offensive coordinator job?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely ready. I'm excited to be in it. I mean, I've been in a coordinator role before at multiple different places. Obviously, not in the NFL, but I think 9 years or something like that, right, as a coordinator. And so I feel 100% confident. I'm excited for this opportunity.
Was there any chance you were going to stay in Detroit? I mean, obviously, everyone kind of knew Ben and AG were hot candidates.
Sure.
But with Ben moving on, was there a chance that you were going to stay in Detroit and take Ben's spot?
Yeah, I think everything was on the table, at the end of last year. We had a lot of team success, and, as they say, a rising tide lifts all ships, right? And so my name was going to get thrown around a few things, and I was prepared for that. The year before, I had a couple opportunities to have a few conversations with teams. Was happy that I was able to go back, and this year, everything was on the table, whether it was ultimately coming here and or whatever else it might have been. There was, conversations had for sure.
Tanner, what do you take from Ben and what you learned from him? Because obviously he's had a pretty good body of work success. And
yeah.
What do you, I mean, not giving up any trade secrets, but what are the philosophies or whatever that you bring here?
Yeah, I would say Ben is an elite teacher. And really what you take from that is be clear and concise with the information you're giving to the players, and be detailed. Be the most detailed person at your job that you can be, and leave no doubt to the players of what their job is. I think that was one of the best things that he did.
What was your kind of role there under him, or as pass game coordinator, whatever? Like, what were you doing during the week and on game days?
Yeah, a lot of my time was spent game planning the pass game. A lot of my time was spent game planning the pass game on a weekly basis, running meetings with what we call it the pass pod, the skill position group, meeting with the quarterbacks at times. Again, that can be the receivers, tight ends, just being involved in all those different positions in any aspect of the pass game.
Did you call plays in the XFL, or was the last time at San Diego?
Yeah. Pep and I both called plays in the XFL. So it was kind of a shared duty. He did a little bit more of it to begin with, and then we played around with how we wanted to do that as it went on in the 5 games that we got.
You're coming from an offense where you have the prototypical pocket passer in Goff, and now you have one of the best running quarterbacks. So how is that a little out of your comfort zone? Like, what kind of transition is that for you to make that adjustment?
Yeah, I think it just opens things up more. That's all. It just adds another layer to what we can do with where we're going on offense.
What are your thoughts of Breece Hall?
Love him.
Yeah.
Love him. Comes to work, works hard, good guy around the players, leads by example, talented. I love everything about it.
What can he do in this side? I mean, you have some skilled players, him,
yeah.
You got some weapons here. What can they do with Justin?
Specifically, Brees?
Brees, Garrett, I mean, you have, like I said, you have a lot, so.
Yeah, again, that is a blessing, right? To come into a place and already have weapons in place. And Brees, he's shown in his career that he can run the football, whether it's inside between the tackles, whether it's outside, and in the pass game. He's caught a ton of passes in his career, which is very beneficial for us. Garrett has shown to be an explosive player, and we're going to hopefully continue to do that. I know AG talked about, hey, what are we going to do with Garrett? We're going to give him the ball as much as we can. And you know what? I'm in on it. And so I feel really good about that, about those guys.
Other than Ben Johnson, who is that greatest influence on you?
Other than Ben Johnson, Dan Campbell was a great influence on me. Okay, and the first coach that I ever coached for in 2005 was Jim Harbaugh, and I worked for him as well again in 2018, and always kept in touch with him. So I think he had some influence on me early on as a young coach at 23 years old, and going forward, and then being around Pep. Being around Pep and always knowing to have solutions, have answers to the test before you get there. I would say those guys are the ones that have been the most.
Have you reached out at all to him, to Harbaugh, since you got the job? Have you spoken to Jim at all since you got the job?
You know what? Yeah, we saw each other down at the Combine this year. It was great.
Have you, is there a time to have a conversation about, obviously he's done all of these roles before, he's been incredibly good at that. Has he imparted any wisdom to you at all on taking, this first time role for yourself?
We didn't necessarily get into it a lot with that. It was a little bit, the last couple times we've talked has just been a little bit more, how you doing, how are things, how's your family, and those types of stuff. But so.
Did you stay in touch with Muji after San Diego State, or is this kind of the first time you guys have been back?
Yeah, it's a great question. Muj and I did not continue keep in touch, call it for 15 years or something like that, and then I kind of ended up in Detroit, and then having those, seeing Kevin O'Connell, and then all of a sudden you see Muj, and then even another guy who was our quarterbacks coach as well, all in that same quarterback room at San Diego State. You just kind of rekindle that, and as the years have gone on, whether it's at the Combine or just texting or talking, you kind of rebuild that relationship, and so it's been really good.
It's pretty wild that you guys are in these roles now, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool, I would say, right? I mean, it's I'd say that's pretty unique. There's a handful of us out of that same quarterback room from San Diego State that are in pretty good positions right now, and we're just hoping to make the best of it with what we have right now and get this thing going.
How is working with AG? Is he pretty much just leaving you alone? I mean, are you running the entire show, or how much input does he have in the offense?
Yeah, AG is the head coach, right? And we're going to do as AG wants, and but he's also given me some freedom to do what we feel is best with our scheme and our players.
When you look at Detroit, a lot of it obviously I think started with the offensive line and how many resources they pulled in that. You look at this offensive line, the last 2 first-round picks for tackles, and Jared Tucker's a tackle. What do you think the offensive line you have in place? It doesn't seem like a start from scratch kind of line.
Yeah, you said it, right? I feel really good about it. I like the room. We have a bunch of good people and guys that are willing to take the coaching and willing to work hard. And that's really what it starts with. Are they talented? Yeah, we have some talented players in that room, clearly. But they're good guys to be around. They're good with their teammates, and I believe that we'll be able to lean on those guys.
Tyler, you've been around AG for a few years now, and what are the things that you've noticed about him as a leader?
Yeah.
He seems obviously a very take charge type of guy, and what you're seeing him bring to this building.
He's setting the tone for the standard of what this building is, what the expectation is, and he's truthful about it. He's not going to sugarcoat it. He's just going to tell you how it is with the truth. What do you need to hear, and what is that truth? We're not going to go around it and beat around the bush. It's going to be this is the expectation, this is the standard, and here it is. You take it or you leave it, and this is the way we're going to go. And I think guys are buying into that. Guys are seeing it and they're going, yes, I like this. I know where we're going, and I can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Where are we going? Why are we going there? And he's done a phenomenal job with that.
And players want to hear the truth, I gather, right? I mean,
absolutely.
It's always the way it's been, right?
No question. Absolutely. You give them the truth. Give them the truth, and then decisions can be made from there.
With Fields, you referenced his arm,
Yeah.
we know his legs, and I think Aaron at the league meetings was talking about him being a total quarterback. How do you kind of do that, but also not take away what's made him special? His legs kind of separate him from your average quarterback. So how do you kind of do one, don't lose the other.
Yeah, I think we get him involved. We teach him the system, right? The core of the system, right? This is what we have. This is the basic installation. Get him to understand the concepts. Get him to understand the progressions. Get him to play fast. Get him to play on time and in rhythm. And then when things break down, he's got those things, that he can rely on when things aren't exactly the way we want it to be. In addition, as you said, he's got the legs, so that does show up in the run game to some degree as well.
So what was it about this job that made it attractive to want a team over there in Glenn?
Well, number one, I have a lot of respect for Aaron. We've known each other over the years, never really worked with one another, but being in the same division, we had a lot of conversations, particularly at the Combine, talking philosophy, those kind of things. So throughout the process, we stayed in contact, and when it narrowed down to the Jets, I got really excited because I've been, from afar, I know the roster, I know the personnel that we have on the defensive side of the ball, and a lot to work with. And with his relationship with the organization, I felt like it was going to be a great connection with ownership.
What do you like about the roster, the personnel, and guys who've been here? We know Sauce, Quinning, guys like that. We've seen.
Well, you just called two guys that I think are phenomenal and at the top of their game within the league. Everything we do starts up front. I don't care if it's stopping the run, getting to the quarterback, creating a new line of scrimmage, and Quinton is that guy that can do that. And when you look at the second level, you talk about Quincy, you talk about Sherwood, two great linebackers that I'm excited about. They're working well together right now with one another. Of course, we did what we did in the offseason with Sherwood, which I was excited about that. He stepped up, taking a leadership role. And when you look at on the perimeter, Sauce, Brandon Stevens that we brought in, AZ, who we drafted, three phenomenal guys that can do the things that we want them to do outside.
How much is this blend of what you've done in the past and what Aaron's done? Obviously, he's got a defensive background schematically. How much are you kind of blending the two of them together?
I really think it's a collaboration of both our schemes and what we're trying to get done. But most importantly, as Coach AG talks about all the time, it's not really about this, our playbook. It's about our play style. And that's the thing that we're trying to emphasize and communicate with these guys, the physicality, the effort, the demand, being smart, not beating ourselves, understanding situational football. And we're going to make sure that we, cater to our players. I think that's the great thing as a coach. Who do you have? What can they do? Put them in the best position to be successful.
Steve, what are the things for yourself as a former head coach that you can bring to Aaron, who's the first timer at this? What kind of things can you lend to him? And just as a follow, in these early days, what do you see out of him as a leader here?
I think number one, just experience. You can't beat experience. In situations that I may have gone through that doesn't have anything to do with football, and that's what that position sometimes entails. That you're dealing with a lot of things outside of ball, and then also just throughout the course of the year, and trying to manage certain things and being able to have someone to bounce ideas off of. I think that's critical. Sometimes in that seat, man, it gets lonely, and you don't have that sounding piece, that individual to communicate and speak with. So I'm here for that. Leadership-wise, phenomenal, man. He has really set the foundation and really trying to change the culture within the building. And I emphasize building, not just the football aspect, because a lot of times on the outside, people don't understand a head coach, that's what he cultivates. He changes the whole dynamics of the building, and you can see that thus far. And the players are really buying in. The level of commitment and consistency that we're seeing throughout the different phases is there.
Steve, what are your early impressions of Will McDonald and what he can become?
Will is phenomenal. He can get to the passer. Will's a lot more physical and stronger than what I anticipated and saw from afar. For his being able to be stout in the run game. So there's always that fluctuation with his weight, and that's something that he has to control with the strength staff, which we have a tremendous group of guys there. But his effort, his approach each and every day. I'm on board with him, man. I'm excited about what he can do, and I'm looking forward to a great season from him.
With Sauce, they've been predominantly a zone team the last few years. With his unique skill set because of his length, how would he translate? Everyone's presuming he'll probably play more man this year.
Why are they presuming that?
Well, AG is a man coach.
Okay.
I think you've done a lot of blitzing in your past, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
If that comes to be, how could he make that? What would that transition be like for him?
As I mentioned earlier, man, he's smart. He sees it from a different lens. I was just talking to our in-house people upstairs and explaining this, that very highly intelligent, understands the game. So I think he would be able to transition well from a standpoint of man, zone, whatever we're trying to do. We always emphasize in the defensive room our weapons, eyes, hands, hips, and feet. Regardless of the call, that's what we got to perfect, and he does a great job of that. And I think everything is predicated off our opponents. Each week it may be a little different. Zone eyes. Getting the ball out quick, making plays on the ball, being physical at the line of scrimmage, trying to take certain guys away. Tighten things up so the D-line can get there. So it's going to fluctuate in how we play.
With Brandon Stevens, just looking at the analytics from last year, he gave up a lot of catches and yards. When you talk to people who watch Baltimore closely, they said it seemed like he was in the right position a lot of times, just maybe didn't get his head around, didn't get to the ball. What does he have to do better off of what you watched on the film last year in terms of cutting down those catches?
I think you just stated it. I think we've got to do a better job when in position, finishing, making plays on the ball. That's something that we talked about during free agency, and that's something that we continue to emphasize since he's been here. Getting on the jugs extra for us catching the ball, working certain drills, being in position and looking back. So I think, again, it's just the teaching and the consistency in which we give the guys so they can go out and perform.
What did you, in your year out of the NFL, what did you do in terms of maybe taking a step back? How it might have been beneficial for you? I think you're with Charlotte, right?
Yeah, I built a great relationship with Bill Poggi, the head coach that was there. He invited me out, and it really helped me tremendously. They practice in the morning, so I was there to be able to assist and do certain things. And then in the afternoon, and Coach Draper was there as well, we just watched tape. I had access to get the NFL. So each week, it would be in there on Monday, and I would study different teams, schemes, third down, 2-minute, whatever. Looked at a lot of Detroit stuff as well with our communication with Aaron. So it was great to reset and recharge, but learned a lot throughout that process, and I was ready to get back into the saddle.
How do you feel about the defensive tackle position beyond Quinn? We know what Quinn can do. We've seen a lot of him, but you guys brought in some different faces. How do you feel about that position overall?
BC, Bound Coward is doing well. Jay is doing great. We got Leonard who was here. We got some pieces that can complement him. So it's going to wait and see exactly how it pans out. I thought those guys are doing well. I'm real excited about Jay and BC. But we got to wait until we get the pads on to see exactly how things pan out.
Did your year in San Francisco, I don't know how much was left there from the Saleh influence when you got to San Francisco, because you've been gone for a few years. But obviously these guys have been through the Saleh system for a few years. Is there anything you can take from the time in San Francisco that helps the transition here with the guys you're coaching now? When
you look at a lot of things that I brought and what we were doing, it was a blend, so they knew exactly some of the coverages and some of the things that we were doing based off San Fran. Of course, you mentioned Saleh. So I thought that process and transition was well. One thing we tried not to do, we didn't want to elaborate too much on the terminology of what they used in the past. We wanted to make sure that it was new, it was changed, and those guys are bought in.
Chris, what's this been like for you? You had like a meteoric rise. You only finished playing, 3 years ago?
Yes, sir.
Here you are as a special teams coordinator. So what's that been like?
It's been a blessing, honestly. It's been a whirlwind a little bit too, just again because of how fast I've been fortunate enough to kind of be able to be a part of this transition. To still see a lot of my former teammates play or play against them or whatever the case may be. Now coaching against some of these guys. it's real hard to put in perspective sometimes, but I'm thankful I'm along for the ride and just taking everything a day at a time.
Did you know you wanted to get into coaching when you were playing?
If I'm being completely honest, I had no clue. I honestly used to talk a lot of mess about coaches, like coming up. From high school, college, the NFL, I'm like, nah, I'm never going to coach, whatever the case may be. But I was always fortunate enough and blessed to able to get the tag of like, hey, being a coach on the field, or helping young guys come along. And I always took pride in that. So as I got older and I matured a little bit, when people start to throw that around, I kind of could start to see it a little bit,
How would you size up, I know it's early, but the kicking competition right now that you guys have?
You just said it. It's real early. We're fortunate enough to have some very, very talented but young guys part of that competition. But with that, too, it's very, very early, and we've also talked about consistency. So for them, the biggest thing we've been harping on is just being consistent, not only now in this process, but as we get going in training camp and everything else that comes with that.
How would you assess the group of returners that you have on this roster as well?
I think very talented, very talented. Obviously, you know Xavier Gibson. I think everybody knows what he's been able to do, how he's been able to flash. We consistently challenge him on a daily basis. You talk about some of these young guys that come in, some guys that people don't even know that have returner capabilities. We were fortunate enough to draft Arian, and he's been able to flash some things, some very, very good things. I know people talk about his hands in the past, but he's honestly showed us some great things here early on. But like I just told you, the game is about consistency. We brought in a young guy in Pritchett. He's been doing a phenomenal job back there for us. So the biggest thing is challenging these guys on a consistent and regular basis, and the cream's going to rise to the top when that time comes.
With Arian, I don't think he returned kicks at all.
He didn't.
Right?
He didn't.
So, do you look at that and go, why? Because he's so fast.
No doubt.
What's the process now of trying to figure out if he can do it for you?
I mean, the biggest thing is you'd be surprised how many things sometimes happen organically. Especially here, we do our best to make sure we breed competition. So sometimes when you just have conversations, and guys, they breed it out themselves, and they'll start challenging each other. Like, I bet you can't do this. And sure enough, that turns into one play, that turns into a conversation, and now he's back there before and after every practice trying to, improve his ability as a potential punt returner. So again, to see how natural he's kind of been back there. There's some things obviously that he's new to, but challenging him on a regular basis, I think, is our job as coaches to make sure we try to get the best out of him.
What do you want the special teams identity to be? What do you want? What's your vision for the unit?
Honestly, just competitive as hell. Competitive as hell. I mean, you see it where in terms of where special teams is going right now. Sometimes I like to call it as a lost art because not as many organizations really emphasize it. And I completely understand it, but I think we're very, very fortunate to have a head coach who really believes in the approach of special teams. So when we step on the field, we just want to make sure we're competing every single play that we have the opportunity to do so.
There's been a lot of talk about the culture that Aaron Glenn is trying to build here with the Jets. Just how have you seen that play out before your eyes while you've been here?
I think it's been going extremely well, if I'm being completely honest and transparent. And I'm not just saying that because I've been fortunate enough to be a part of this new coaching staff. But when I was fortunate enough to first get to New Orleans back in 2016, he used to preach a lot of the same thing when we talk about some of that coaching. And we were fortunate enough to kind of do some special things there. But it started with the seed that he planted. And I think he's already done that here, and we're very, very excited to see where that ends up going.
Do you see any difference in him from when he was a position coach? Like, I'm sure there is a difference, but what do you see as the difference now that he's running?
I think I don't want to say the exact same because this is a different light, obviously. When he was a position coach, I got to spend more time with him. I'll just say this. I know he still has a very, very huge impact. The reason I say that is because sometimes I'll be sitting in meetings and he's going through his deal, and I'll be fired up about whatever it is he's saying, and then we'll break and we'll have a special teams meeting like right after. And I'm kind of like, oh snap! I gotta go get in this meeting now because I'm still thinking he's almost talking to me like I'm a player again, So I don't want to say he's that much different, if any. He's always been intense from the first day I knew him, and he's kind of carried that same energy since.
Are there any specific things that you want, special teams to accomplish coming into the year, like any certain goals or anything like that?
I wouldn't right now. I think for us, we're still way too early to think about that. We still have a lot of guys who are trying to just earn a roster spot, competing, from start to finish. The biggest thing right now, I just ask my group to do is compete every single day they come in the building. Not obviously just physically, but mentally as well. Just making sure we're trying to install some of the things that we talk about and that we want to make sure we get going with.
As a young coordinator, are there certain people you draw from in terms of how you approach this job and how you want to coach the guys as a coach? having seen it from a player standpoint too?
For me, honestly, there's like do's and don'ts. And honestly, I can just speak from my own experience of both coaches that I felt like were able to get the most out of me and some coaches who I felt like weren't. When you talk about specifically in special teams, I think I've been very, very fortunate enough to come up with a lot of great coaches on fourth down. Obviously, it's not a secret here that Mike Westhoff did a lot of great things here, and I was fortunate enough to be around him in two different places. He was a great coach that I was able to draw and learn from. Ben Kotwika, who I was fortunate enough to work with back in Denver, also has some history here. Did a lot of great things that I was able to learn from. Jeff Rogers, who I played for back in Arizona, did some great things. Darren Rizzi, I've been around him. So I've been fortunate enough to be around a lot of good coaches who have done this at a high level and, pick and choose from a couple different things that they do, that they've taught me, and just trying to hit the ground running.
With Aaron Glenn, is there any connect? I know you're from Houston, he's from Houston. Was there any connection? Did you know him at all back in Houston?
I knew his name. I mean, I was like, being from Houston, the Texans, I got kind of started later. Now, obviously, I know that was towards the end of his career, but I still knew his name in regards to that. And there's just a little twang that, people from Houston kind of have. You kind of able to identify each other a little bit. So he doesn't have to talk much for me to realize that, no, he's kind of where I'm from as well. So.
A lot of the guys you guys took on day 3 of the draft had special.
I'm sorry, one more time?
On day 3 of the draft.
Yeah.
A lot of guys you took had special teams backgrounds
Yeah.
in college. Yeah, I think was a gunner at Georgia. Was that? Did you feel like you had input on day 3 in some of those?
We've been doing a great job having dialogue in terms of what we see, pros and cons from whoever it is that we've been able to evaluate. But I think right now a lot of those decisions are above my pay grade. I think Mooj and AG have done a great job of being on the same page from what it is that I can see and making sure they have the correct vision in terms of leading this organization the right way.
Do you think having done a lot of jobs on the unit that you're coaching as a player, does that, the young guys that are coming in and know your history, do you think that adds a little more, even, I don't know if legitimacy is the word, but, you've been there, done that as a player. You've done what you're telling them to do.
No doubt. I think I'm fortunate enough to be in this position to also have a little bit of credibility when I'm speaking to some of the things that I'm asking about or, demanding from them, both in good and bad ways. I haven't showed many of my own clips yet, maybe one or two, but I do also want to make sure it's a habit that I show some bad ones as well. I think it was Marshawn Lynch who said this, like, something along the line of, like, the bear gonna get you sometimes, but you gotta make sure you get the bear more times than he gets you, or something along those lines. So I make sure to show them that, like, hey, I know I'm a coach and I know I'm being demanding of you, but I wasn't perfect myself as well. So I try to make sure I let them know that as well, that this is a very tough and competitive game, and there's gonna be, some highs, there's gonna be some lows, but make sure you have more highs than you do lows.
Sometimes with draft picks or undrafted free agents, they come across as special teams signings. I mean, they want to play in their natural position, but they have a background on special teams. Jamarcus Weston did not play a lot on defense in Florida. Is that kind of a special teams signing?
I guess you could say that. A little bit. But I know what you mean in regards of having guys who they want to play their position, whether that's receiver or DB, whatever the case may be. One thing I'm very excited about this young group is they all have a service mindset. How can I help this team win? Whether that is playing my position or whether that's playing on special teams. And they're all very competitive. So being able to have the combination of those two traits, I think, is going to help this team in general. But getting back to Weston, he has a service mindset, and he's also competitive. So whatever he's been asked to do right now thus far, not only on special teams, but just as a professional in this building, he's been able to do so far at a high level. And right now it's about consistency and putting one step in front of the other.